the tech sector is also serves as a global industry, and while it may be synonymous with Silicon Valley, there are a host of cities throughout the world that are also hubs for innovation and digital growth. While aspiring technology professionals can choose from a wider range of job opportunities or even start a new tech company, there is, however, no guarantee that they will achieve success in such a changeable and competitive marketplace. So, if any one of you are to develop a successful career in the tech sector or represent one of the market leaders or even start a tech business, this webinar seeks to address some of the issues and strategies to thrive in the technology sector. So we are very privileged today to have two distinguished panelists joining us in this session. And they carry with them a lot of experience in dealing with thousands of tech companies in their previous capacity, lots of experience dealing in one of the top analytics company in the world and one of the Fortune 500 banks, right? And the technology that they adopt, the technology that they deliver, the technology that they interface with, certainly can bring lots of knowledge that can be shared amongst us. So we bring the industry practices, industry experience, industry knowledge to the audience today, which is pretty diversified. We have academics, we have consultants, we have corporate people, we have bankers tuning in, and even students, yeah? And we are here basically to distill some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, some of the unique factors that make tech companies successful. Okay, so at the same time, we also want to know their failures. We want to know what has been the challenges that they face and what makes them unique. Okay, so we don't just bring any other tech companies, we also bring tech experience experts who deal with top tech companies in their corporate experience. And now the two gentlemen are both the CEO and the SVP co-founders of an entity called AI Future Asia. And AI Future Asia is the advisory partner of MyFinB, and AI Future basically does a lot of advisory in analytics and AI for large, medium, and small corporations, as well as government agencies. So we will basically, introduce Charles Cheong, who is the CEO and founder of AIFA, which stands for AI Future Asia, to begin the presentation, followed by Benjamin, where they will share about 10 minutes each before we go around the table for some Q&A and some of the questions that we put across to them. Now, to facilitate the audience into the range of topics that we discussed, we have put together a simple worksheet. Okay, can the admin flash the worksheet, please? This worksheet is a simple mind map that navigates everyone. It will be shared in the Zoom chat box, right? In the chat box for you to download. And it's basically for you to jot some of the key points that are being discussed and post some of these questions out there. So I would like the audience really to grill our speakers, yeah? Of course, for the sake of learning, for the sake of sharing, we would cover 4 key areas that the speakers and panelists will be more than happy to share. And I will be moderating the session to make sure that they are able to answer as best as they can. Okay, and the first part is about experience sharing, what have been observed to date. So we can keep it casual, we can keep it informal, but from the time that they started, their journey in all these top companies and dealing with lots of tech companies, what have been observed to date and what is changing right now and what remains the same, what changed and what remains the same. So we are very curious to hear from them what has been the evolution, what has been the dynamics affecting the tech sector in general. Okay? And we also like to hear from them the types of business model that are adopted by various types of tech companies. So of course, the tech world is huge, as I mentioned earlier, but certainly with specific examples, they will share with you the components, the risks, the implementation. So noting that Ben also from SaaS, right, which a firm I truly admire in terms of analytics capabilities, in terms of data management and so on. So we're very curious for such tech company, what have been their key success factors that make them a global company, $1 billion company, that operates globally. Then of course, with those case studies, we want to have some, no doubt we can't cover everything, but at least some of the components about that, how they deal with customers, how they deal with pricing, what sort of markets they pursue, you know, the types of products and services they offer, how is the structure being done when they deliver their solutions. I think pieces of this would be very helpful for us to understand how they implement their business model towards these 6 key elements, right? Yeah, 5, sorry. And last but not least is the key takeaways. So we want to walk away by knowing what are the key success factors that tech companies carry along with them, the challenges, and what needs to change, right? What needs to change in their current practices, what needs to change for the future, what needs to change from the human capital perspective. So without further ado, let me rope in and bring in Charles to the discussion to lead the session. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you, Nazri. Good morning, everybody. Good evening for those who tune in from far, from US, and I know there are some people from New York. Yes, and thank you, MyFinB, for giving me this opportunity to talk about this subject, which is very close to our heart. We spent more than 3 decades in this business, in technology business. And as we go through, I will share with you some of the companies that is very successful. And I will talk about my experience in Citibank personally as the head of sourcing and procurement. And I have done business with more than 1,000 technology companies. So I have a very good direct experience working with various business owners as Citibank in Asia Pacific for 14 countries. We have more than 300 systems and solutions across, and that is something that I saw that why a bank is successful. A banking business is essentially a technology business play. So without technology, a bank will not be successful. So that I would like to share with you the second slide where they are technology today. All of them are below 10 years old. And they are successful for a reason. All of them have something in common. They are the latest technology company. They make use of the cloud computing in sales management. They solve an immediate market problem. Like the first one that we saw on the slide called the Snowflake. This is a company who helps companies to move the data to the cloud. And today, data is worth more than money. So if you have a solution that helps people to move data from to the cloud, and you will help them to mitigate the risk. And we often talk about, today, gone are the days where you have a computer under your desk and you can do everything that your business is doing. The days are gone because of various factors of risk and management. So when you're on the cloud, everything is safe. And this company is cool because they are a new startup. Since 2012, they tripled the employee count. And the company's valuation is incredible at 3.9 billion. And it grew like almost more than 250%. So this is an example of one of the company. Then you look at the truck company that offers AI dash cams for tractor trailers. This is particularly in US. And a company with 5 years experience, but with more than 1,000 headcounts. And what did they do? The job function is all about they're providing a sensor to the truck and food production. And it supports the customer base and in the business. So with the analytics, they help the trucks to be more productive. Then we have the next one, which is the DoorDash. DoorDash is also another company that does something on food delivery. One of the technology that I like most is this company called Neuro. Neuro is a 2016 company with 300 headcounts. What they do is they are using robotics, self-driven vehicle to deliver the products. So they have a small pot like this, and these are all using technology. And the next one that I look at is, can I have the next slide? Okay, this is a sport betting company. It is a new generation of sport betting technology. And gaming is a very big business. And in order to be successful, you need to be automated. And that the company use a machine learning capability to help them to build the business. We have 65 headcount, but this is a very promising company. And can I have the next slide? This company is very close to my heart, DocuSign. DocuSign, I know them way back in 2005, and when they first started, and we wanted to use this in the bank, and they were not up to the security standard at the time. But somehow, DocuSign persists, and as a result, in 2010, they managed to get the e-signature transaction management on iPhone and iPad. And that is where the company instantly turned around, because those days we always sign documents on paper. But the minute they enable it into a mobile device like iPhone and iPad, and it opened a whole new world of business opportunity. And today they dominate more than 73% of the electronic signature market, which they have processed 18 million signatures. They seems to have us echo. Can you still hear? Okay. And today, this company, DocuSign, is the market leader, and they are like the Rolls Royce or the Ferrari of the signature space. Even though we start to see that there are a lot of new players. And with a company with 500,000 customers, this is definitely a company that is making a good business, because they have the right pricing model. You can try the product for free worldwide. You can have a different tier of pricing, which makes it very little commitment for you. And for you to implement is very easy, because they support all kinds of device. So, and that is why the company like DocuSign survived the crisis, and they come back and became the global market leader of e-signature transaction management company. Okay, can we have this next one? And the company that is very close to everybody's heart. Everybody knows about Apple. The way I know Apple is the way that I have dealt with them. There's about when they first launched iPhone, and I was working for Citibank then. I was the regional head of sourcing. I went to Apple and said, we want to buy iPhone for our customers. We have 14 million customers in Asia Pacific, and we want to encourage people to sign up as a new customer to do new account opening. So we wanted to reach out to 1 million potential customers by buying the phone. And because of this, I got to know that their real money spinner is not the iPhone. The iPhone, they don't make big money. Yes, the hardware is just an enabler. But what they make most out of the business is their software, their services. So they have at the time when I was talking to them, the biggest revenue generator is iTunes, because people buy music, people buy software. Then subsequently, they have services like Apple Pay, and that's where the business grows. So using a hardware as a catalyst to build a bigger part of the business is a very clever idea. It's Apple, to me, they are just a technology company, but they don't produce the device themselves. All the production is done by a third party, Foxconn. So this is a very clever story. And I have a good friend who worked for Apple in Beijing, and she was the regional marketing director for Apple. And the way that they do business is incredibly innovative. At the time, that was like 6 years ago, and she never go for a face-to-face interview. And the Apple interview is the toughest interview that she ever had, because she went through the interview by using an Apple computer, so FaceTime. And during the process, she was asked to write She is a publisher. She works for one of the largest publisher company in the world, John Wiley. And Apple asked her, what can you bring to the table? Can you please write down in just one page? So she went back and she wrote down everything that she could bring to the table in Apple in one page. And subsequently, when she was offered the job, that description that she wrote about what she's going to contribute to Apple become a job description. And I thought that was cool. And as I left Citibank and started my own business, and when somebody asked me what is my job description, I would use the same thing. I said, can you please tell me what can you bring to the table? What can you contribute to the company? And based on what you have done, what they have written, that will be the scope. And this was implemented in London School of Economics, where I was a mentor to 3 interns over a period of 3 years. And they came to me and they asked me to teach them the ropes of technology and also in private equity and family office. So I use the Apple method and it works very well. And today my 3 interns are all working in the top banks around the world. So well, technology is so exciting that you'll never be obsolete, and you always have to learn new things, always unlearn what you have learned. I mean, I had gone through the revolution of the dinosaur era where you have a computer with a diskette, and to this age where artificial intelligence is the key. So I can appreciate that we always have to learn new things every day, and every week, every month, we have to unlearn what we have learned and embrace new technology with open arms, and not to have the impression and not to give ourselves a restriction that our age is catching up, we are too old to learn new things. But in technology, you learn new things every day. And that goes to the next slide that I want to share with you in Huawei. Huawei is a company when I know them back in 1992. And we were doing a lot of system integration and network, and they were competing with the big giants like the likes of Cisco, routers, and at that time was 3Com, and they were just starting up. And it was incredible journey for them because they don't have a name for themselves and nobody know who is Huawei. But what the founder has done was really good. He worked very hard, and he made all his employees his shareholders. And that was something unheard of and at those days in China. And every employee becomes a shareholder. And because of this, the employee works very hard. And that was one of the greatest motivation for Huawei. And because of this, the company has been moving very fast with new ideas, new innovation. And in a short span of a couple of years, they become the international brand around the world. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes. And these are some of the key characteristics of Huawei. One thing that I like very much is the customer attitude. They are very focused on customer, which is also all the time my focus. When I was doing technology business, people don't buy from you because your technology is the best. People buy because of you. People buy because you are somebody that they trust. So customer first attitude is important. And when I was a vendor, when I was a technology vendor, and that is a quality that I always have with my customer. I remember those days in 1993 when DHL wanted to buy the latest computer for me, and the computer is as big as a washing machine. And the IT manager came to me after 2 years, and he said, one day, I'm going to buy this computer from you because I trusted you. I know this is the latest and the greatest technology, but nobody has used it in Asia or in Singapore. If something happens to the computer, and if you're going to make me lose my job, I make sure that you will lose your job. I had to pay, I just dropped my jaw. And for somebody who trusted me, and it was indeed an honor for that kind of trust. But even though 2 years later, the computer became obsolete, And I still keep my job. He still keep his job. And that was DHL Asia Pacific. Can I have the next slide, please? Now we talk about Citibank. Citibank is a bank that I know very well for almost 20 years. I was the vendor. I was the head of sourcing and procurement in software technology. I know the things that they do has always been cool. And every time when I work for Citibank, when I roll out a technology or introduce a technology to Citibank, when I see a press release like what you saw on the screen, I always have a private smile to myself. I say, hey, I'm part of the technology. I was involved in the implementation of this technology. And this one is very close to me when you see Citi rolls out AI-powered risk analytics and scoring engine. This is a result of the company that I used to work for, SAS, that they have a credit scoring engine, and SAS has the advanced analytics platform that helps Citibank to do their credit scoring. And I was in the decision management team in Citibank, and we have done this before. I remember every time the bank wanted to roll out a marketing campaign, and it has to go through an analytics team, the decision management team, and now we have the AI team, who does decision management. And another example is when Citibank goes to Hong Kong and they implement AI to analyze companies' financial statements for the approval process of corporate loan. Yeah, this is something that MyFinB has been doing, and without knowing it, the technology enables the bank to read hard copies of financial statement. But today we don't even read hard copy statements. We have all digital, and we calculate all the indicators, the ratios, and we always talk about what default, what is the probability of default, and what is the approval process, what is the rating to decide how much money you want to lend to the customer. And this is part of innovation. And my experience with working with all the regional banks for the last 30 years, I have worked with more than 20 regional banks. Nobody is close to Citibank at the time, because Citibank has always been working and behaving like a technology company. And sometimes internally, we always tell each other, we are a bank, we are not a technology. But the technology team is so huge that it's bigger than a vendor. And now Citibank has scaled down, and they realize that they don't need to have such a big technology team, because a lot of this work has been replaced by AI. And of course, those people who lost their job are those who is totally irrelevant in the technology space, like those people who are still in the mainframe. And Citibank used to be the largest mainframe user in the whole of Asia, but today they are not the largest anymore. But today they're the largest user of cloud computing, where I was involved in. And today they are using a lot of blockchain technology. Those days, when you talk about blockchain, nobody wants to talk to you, because they say blockchain is scam. Blockchain is not real, but today blockchain is real. And today we saw that Citibank has been very open in talking to the latest technology. They are very open to share the APIs. They are very open to have third-party developers to work with the technology team. And Citibank has innovated one more time because of artificial intelligence. And I think I come to the last slide. Well, we always have to behave like a startup company, even though we may be in the business for a long time. And we have to constantly tell ourselves that we are always a startup. We are a startup every day. And when we have the kind of thinking in our mind, that will make sure that we keep ourselves current. We always say that everything is possible. In Citibank, we have a mentality among us. We never say no. We never say die in Citibank. And everything, there is always a solution. So if we have not done something before, it doesn't mean that it cannot be done. So with that kind of mentality, it makes the company go very, very far. And in my life in Citibank, we have done a lot of things that I have never done before. I just got to figure out how I can find a solution to get it done. Because if I say no to my boss, I say, boss, this has not been done before. The boss says, okay, thank you very much for your service. The door is at your right side, and I get somebody else to do it. So with that, if you have the startup mentality in you, like what you see on the screen, you must have a dream, you must have a flexible mindset, you have to take risks, and you want always open for advice, and you communicate with people. And most important, to me, is know your customer. Getting yourself involved in the customer's business process, like the way I do. When vendors come to me and try to sell me a solution, a lot of vendors, they don't know how to sell solutions to a customer because they are not in my environment. And I always tell them, you are trying to sell me something, but you don't understand my environment. That will be very difficult. So most of the time, it was the customer, that's me and my team, who guide the vendor what we want. And usually I will ask them to come to my office, and I will lock the office conference room for 4 hours. I said, you are coming to my office for 4 hours. You're not going to get out until we have come to a conclusion that you have a solution for us. Otherwise, no point talking to me of what you have when you don't understand what we do. And as a customer, it is also a two-way traffic. I provide a lot of feedback. I provide a lot of ideas, because a vendor, they only have one environment. That is their own environment. They know their environment better. For me, as a customer, I have more than 1,000 vendors who come to me with different environment. I have 1,000 scenarios. I have 1,000 experience more than the vendor who come to see me. So because of this, I was able to share my personal experience. And as a result, we come up with the most innovative solutions when we try to implement a technology. Like, for example, when we were trying to implement a data services solution, and we were asking ourselves, if we start to go to the technology team and ask them for approval, it will take us 2 years, because it will take 1 year to get the solution to be embedded into the internal system, which is a big thing, because if the production system is down and the central bank will come after us, we may even risk of losing our license. So we come to a conclusion and say, okay, we try to do things outside the technology system, which has to be independent, so that you will pass the compliance, and the bank will be easy. It's easy for the bank to make a decision. So to stay away from the core banking system, the core technology, that is also one way to work, to introduce a new technology to the bank. And as a result, I think I saw MyFinB has done this recently. There was that when I saw that, I was telling myself, yes, this is what I used to do. How we can bypass the technology without bypassing them, but to bring the technology benefit to the bank. So that is one. And of course, there's another practice that I always use, because we always respect our vendors. We always make sure that our vendors do well. And when the vendors do well, we do well. It takes us more than a year to get them to be an approved vendor to the bank. When I see that the vendor has no business, I'm worried, because we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort and money to bring them on board. And if they have no business and they close shop, we will be in a difficult position. So I often ask the bank, the technology vendor, to come to my office and find out what else we can do to give them business. And the way we give them business is the most innovative way. And the innovative way is like, for example, in the past, we used big computers like the mainframe, and every year when we upgrade our CPU, we had to pay the vendors a lot of money. And I told them, I said, why are you charging me so much money? Why can't we just restructure the software? Because when we restructure the software, you have a new license, and from a compliance perspective, from an accounting perspective, new license is always more powerful than having a maintenance revenue. And as a result, I did things like subscription model in the most primitive way. And when nobody talked about subscription model, we said, okay, how about we do a regional ELA deals, regional enterprise license agreement. We have a buffet deal, or eat all you can, that we always talk about. So technology is fun. Technology is creative. Technology is about being flexible to keep ourselves relevant in the marketplace. And technology is about making ourselves a startup every day. Always remember that we are always a startup. And when you think that you are a startup, you're always on your toe, and you're always in the play or in the game. I think I come to the last slide. This is the last slide.
Thank you very much, Charles, for giving us a glimpse of your experience and a suite of companies that you have showcased to us as case studies, right? We've certainly learned a lot, and I've got some questions for you so that our participants are able to follow through and at least segment their thoughts, organize their thoughts better. For those of you who have just tuned in, we have prepared a webinar worksheet for you. It's a little typo there on the spelling of worksheet, but essentially what we are hoping you to do is for you to download that image and then start scribbling or jotting some key takeaway points, as well as some earlier sharing points done by Charles. So Charles, I've got one question for you. As we know, tech industry or tech players comprise of hardware and software, right? So across your examples, certainly we can divide them into hardware and software. So from then till now, what have been the changes you've seen to date for hardware players and software players? So split your answers into hardware and software players. Are we, for example, are they changing new technologies? Are there issues, for example, highlighted by Dr. Vignesh, right? Vignesh, about the security side of things. So how serious has that issue been for these hardware players, and to have the security component addressing those security components, right? And then, and are we seeing people selling away the hardware to go into software, or are we seeing software people going into hardware business? Do you see any of this changing, and do you see any of these people restructuring their business from then till now? Charles?
Yes. Thank you, Nazri. This is a good question. Yeah, I have experienced this. I have witnessed this so many times. Hardware vendor find that their business is going to be obsolete soon. So in order to reinvent themselves, they will go to the market and buy software company, and using software company as a catalyst to help them to promote the hardware sales. And one such company that I know is the largest storage company in the world, called EMC. EMC has been in the market the last 15 years buying software company. They buy over companies like Documentum, a workflow solution company. They buy over Symantec as one of the company that to enhance the portfolio. And hardware company is also changing themselves to integrate with software, so that they can offer their solution to the customer behind the scene. That means instead of selling a hardcore computer, a hardcore storage system, they are actually selling a solution, a benefit, just like in a subscription economy. I'm selling you a benefit. I'm not selling you storage, but in the storage system, I have all the security built in, and I have a cloud-based data center where it's highly secure, like Amazon Web Services, or we can even set up a private cloud for you. And when they talk about this in the bank, the bankers will feel more comfortable. And when the cloud computing vendor came to me, the first thing I told them, I said, look, security is a big issue at the time when cloud computing just started about 15 years ago. I said, unless you can create a personal cloud, a private cloud that is between the bank's control, yes, we can do that. And today, I'm very glad to see that the market has matured, that cloud computing is so well established because the security feature is well enhanced. And today, we would not have a second thought if we want to host our application on the cloud. Just like when I was talking to Benjamin, he said, we don't host our application on the small computer underneath the desk anymore. Today, we can easily go to the cloud service provider, which is a data center with all the security. We host our application. And if our application has grown so much and we are running out of space, we can just tell the service provider today, tomorrow we have the service turned on. So hardware is no longer an issue. And in the past, we always worry about buying hardware. Today, nobody buys hardware. People buy services. And the service provider are the people who use hardware as an enabler. And it's good for them because they get to sell the hardware without having the customer involved in the hardware discussion. And as a customer, we love it because we don't need to have so many people just to maintain a data center. I remember we used to build a data center in Shanghai, which is only 2,000 square feet. And it costs us $25 million to build. When commercially we can use an existing cloud computing data center in just like 1% of the cost, we can do the same job. So, and that is the kind of immediate savings that we look at, having your own data center, your own hardware. And for software company, they will also team up with the hardware companies so that they can have a leverage. So we saw that there is a mixture of the hardware vendors now getting involved in software business. Like for example, Dell is getting heavily involved in software business.
All right, Charles, excellent responses. And I'm sure there are more questions coming your way. In view of time, I would like to invite Benjamin to come on board and share his expertise in the analytics space, probably the software side of things, yeah? Even though you've given a hybrid answer for both hardware and software and a notable trend about hardware merging the software business and software making available all solutions on cloud, as we all know. Certainly Benjamin, formerly from SaaS, senior guy who has transacted and presented many solutions involving SaaS expert solutions to many corporations and businesses, right? So we would love to hear him out. We would love to hear what his experience has been with analytics in mind, with the types of approaches and business models that SaaS and any other companies he represented before. And now with AIFA, he is the guy that basically helps to structure and design strategies for companies in adopting AI. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Nazri. Well, I want to take a different spin from today's session to look at, hey, what are the key tech successful companies? I think that was the agenda, but I want to take a different spin to say, all these successful tech companies used to be much smaller. They used to be startups, if you like. They operated off, the premise of trying to help organizations be bigger and better and more effective and efficient the way they do things. Now, Miza, if you can help me scroll up to the next slide. Now, taking a look in terms of, the trajectory of where organizations are today, predominantly a number of them, even like SaaS started in 1976, they were very small companies to begin with, the startups, if you like, yeah? So looking at the trajectory of growth, let's take a journey back in the days where, how these companies actually started up. Now, today we're looking at the top 10 startup companies globally. They attribute to a global valuation of $350 billion US. Yeah, and these are the upcoming names that you may be familiar or not familiar with because they're obviously startups. But if you take a look at the list here of the top 10, it is not surprising that all but one of the top 10 is based in China and grew out of the Silicon Valley in the US. Yeah, only one out of the top 10 is actually out of these two major countries. Now, the biggest is actually called ByteDance. Now, ByteDance, well, some of you may not be in the audience may not be familiar with this name. They're the parent company of TikTok. Now, everybody knows who TikTok is, given that Trump has given some airtime to them. It is a Chinese multinational internet company that's headquartered in Beijing. It is very much a content platform, right? It's used globally today by and the major source of revenue is obviously advertisements. Now going down that list, you obviously have another one called China's TT Chongqing. Now TT Chongqing is a competitor of Uber, is the equivalent of China's Uber. Yeah, they obviously a startup there, and they took on Uber in the transportation, if you like, and business. Now they are backed by some of the biggest global tech companies, including Apple, Tencent, and Alibaba, which has major investments in this company. It's currently valued at $56 billion. Yeah, one of the interesting ones is actually the third one called 50 billion, which is called Juul Labs. Now, Juul Labs is was started by two ex-smokers. What is Juul Labs? Juul Labs is an electronic cigarette company that was actually founded in 2017. Its main aim was to actually improve the lives of the world's 1 billion adult smokers by eliminating cigarettes. So it's a quite interesting proposition that they put forth, that they're trying to help smokers get off cigarettes by going into the e-cigarette business. Yeah, I think one of the more popular ones everybody would have heard of is Airbnb. Now they're the biggest, obviously accommodation company in the world that doesn't own any physical property. Yeah, so they are an engine that helps people make reservations, bookings, and the likes of that through a technology platform. Yeah. And they offer arrangements for lodging, primarily homestays or for tourism across 191 countries globally, or 204 countries we have, yeah? Now, the other companies like, obviously you've heard of SpaceX, is a brainchild of Elon Musk, yeah? Founded in 2012 to have the aim of reducing space transportation costs to enable the colonization of Mars. That was his sort of impossible dream. Yeah, but it is today being funded by the NASA and the government of the US government. Yeah. And obviously going down the list, the leading star that's coming out of India is actually a company called 197. 197's flagship brand is India's leading digital, global, and mobile commerce platform. Right? It is the only star out of the list of top 10 here that is already garnered since its inauguration in 2019. It's garnered around 450 million registered users, and it's looking at hitting its target of 5.5 billion in a year's time. Now, for those who have children, they will be familiar with Epic Games. Epic Games is an American video game and software developer, right? Some of the games under its portfolio include Fortnite, Unreal, Gears of War, and Shadow Complex. Something that I'm familiar with because my children is hooked on these games day in and day out. Yeah. Above and beyond that, I think one of the more interesting ones is actually a company called Kaishou. Kaishou is a Chinese video app sharing application that's leveraging of powerful technology and AI capabilities to it has gained considerable popularity in many major markets as well. It has topped Google Play and Apple stores most downloaded list in the last in at least 8 countries. For those who are in India, the app is known as Snack Video in India. Yeah. Now, moving on to the next slide, I wanted to share in terms of taking a different spiel in terms of what these different startups of great market value have similar characteristics. Yeah. Rather than go into the spiel of how did they grow so big, I think what we wanted to identify was what are key fundamental characteristics of this top company. What do these companies have? Yeah, Miza, if you move on to the next slide. Thank you very much. Now the no, not the previous one. Thank you. Now, obviously, some of the key characteristics of these startups obviously have in common. Yeah. To start with, you know, they have a very genuine and passionate CEOs that drives the business. That's one key characteristic. So there is actually somebody inside the organization who is having that drive and passion to make it successful. So that's one key characteristics we see across all these different startups. We see that, and I know in the audience there are a number of us who are in the startup business. The passion really shines through. Yeah. Having had the opportunity to work with Nazri and Charles, I think that brings to bear and share a big testament to this. Right. The second one is obviously they are really open to feedback and having the drive to improve constantly to see how they can evolve their products and services to service the market. I think that is key, because I think you'll be surprised how many CEOs that have not been taken feedback negatively over the way that the company should and could run better. So the way that has been seen, there's a successful series CEOs like curious, hungry, and always looking to learn, to adapt, and to see how to better improve and innovate to serve the marketplace. And more importantly than not, doing a lot of all these pitches to investors and so on, they keep their presentations and pitches very simple, in the sense that if you don't understand, you cannot explain it simply, you don't understand it enough. Yeah. So key essence is if you can explain it simply, you know it well enough. And the essence around that is your business model and your approach should be simple and easy to understand. Where, for example, what's the purpose of your offering or your company is, or your mission statement of your company is about. Yeah. So that's keeping it simple. Now the third one is obviously not every organization is a one-man show. There is a lot of synergy in capitalizing the key strengths of each individual within an organization. So there is obviously a great lot of credit is given to the team. I think that is important to ensure that each shareholder or each participant of key founding team, contributes their worth, or they bring their experience and capability to the platform, and build on the synergy that comes out of the sum. The sum is more than the sum of equal parts, right? The synergy of that. Last but not least, obviously, you need to be able to walk the talk. What that means is you're able to deliver what you promise, and being able to then continue to innovate and reinvest your revenue or your profits into improving your product or services to better serve the customer base. So I want to take a different spin in terms of today's session, in terms of how, rather than how companies have invested on different strategies, I wanted to take you back in terms of how organizations and the key characteristics of how organizations have evolved to be bigger and better today through having a mindset or mentality of starting from where your beginnings of being a startup, having the flexibility, and having a go-getter, very driven mindset to say that we can get this done. And I think that holds to bear as well in terms of bigger organizations like what Charles has shared in Citibank, to have that ability to be nimble, to be able to say, we can do this, and be, creative and resourceful in the way that we, go to market and do that. That's all I have. I think there's a lot of people on the ground that may have, the opportunity to ask questions in terms of, whether they relate to some of these, especially a lot of, if we have a lot of people who are starting out their companies or building their businesses from scratch. I think this brings to bear and resonates well with Nazri and Charles. That concludes my session. I think we're happy to take the questions in a panel format. Thanks, Nazri.
Thank you so much, Ben. Nice wrap up on the 5 key characteristics, i.e. the human capital aspects, yeah, of tech companies. This is certainly in line with the themes of the session, and under the human capital portion that supplements any form of business model or strategies adopted at a company level. So thank you very much for that, Ben. Now, while we wait for any questions from the floor, I certainly are very much inclined to ask the two fine gentlemen of this particular, with this particular question. Yeah. So we've heard of how tech companies have to no longer sell product or sell output, right? Charles can attest to that, and I'm sure Ben also. Now they are selling outcomes, right? People are now moving into selling outcomes rather than selling products or services. So when you talk about outcome-based solutions, what does this mean to you? And whether you're hardware or software, if you're a hardware provider, what would be the best pitch that you've ever heard? What would be the best pitch that we'd love to hear when they are selling an outcome to you? If they are a hardware fella, and if you're a software guy, right, or lady, right, what sort of outcome would be so pleasing to your ear that if you're a banker, if you're a corporate, if you're a client, right, you will not hesitate to get their services. So what would that be, guys?
Okay, Charles, I'll take that question on because I think I have a couple of opportunities where I pitched to the government ministry in Singapore, and you know, they could resonate well with the story that I was trying to share with them. Now, it's a government agency called People's Association. Now, People's Association's mandate is to build the community of Singapore for them to be, you know, closer as a closely knitted community within the different facets of in Singapore, right? So the glue that holds together the different races and citizens of Singapore. People's Association has many different branches across the country, and you know, they have different community centers where people can go, citizens can go and use its facilities and participate in activities. So the main aim of, at the point in time where I was telling the Chief Executive Director of People's Association, we are not selling you software. What we are selling you is the ability to pull together the citizens of Singapore to build you know, interaction and to build that, you know, across many different races in Singapore, to build national cohesion. So the aim of that was to have the ability to identify the segmented different demographics of the citizens of Singapore and identify the different activities that they might be interested in, and you know, encourage them to come onto the facilities, to use the activities, and to foster a bond of cohesiveness. Yeah. So the essence was not, I'm not really selling you software or hardware. What I'm selling you is the outcome of that, to build national cohesion. Yeah. So that was one simple case that we brought to bear to building a cohesive community in Singapore.
Good example, Ben. How about you, Charles? Whether from a hardware or software perspective, you know, what would please your ear? What would sing tunes to your ears in terms of their sales pitch from an outcome-based approach?
Two key points. Number one, if a vendor comes to me and say, I'm selling you this to help you to increase your customer acquisition plan, yes, that will excite us. And we bought a software that cost us about $8 million because of this on customer acquisition. This is a CRM system. It helped us to automate. It helped us to cut down the pause, and Salesforce.com is widely used in Citibank worldwide. We pay globally. We pay more than $100 million for that during Citibank time. So the first thing is customer acquisition. Customer acquisition means we will have potentially increase our revenue. That's number one. So the top line. And the second proposition that we like to hear is the bottom line. If somebody comes to me and say, yes, Charles, we have this solution that helps you to reduce your P&L impact on year-on-year basis. I understand that you're currently using the system which you're paying $5 million per year. But if my solution comes to you with a 3 million price tag, which means that you have a direct P&L impact of 2 million on a year-on-year basis, would you want to consider? Yes, we have done a lot of such deals when people come to us and say, yes, we will help you to reduce your operating costs. That will have a P&L impact, and that $2 million savings can be classified as a profit. So these are the two key points that we always look at.
So acquire customers and reducing costs, yeah, from a bank's perspective.
Reducing
this
operating
music
costs
to your ears.
Yes,
Why is operating costs a big thing right now for you guys?
For operating costs, during my time, a transactional cost per customer, it costs, let's say for we have this SWIFT transaction. Every SWIFT messages transaction that we send out, those FX transaction, foreign currency trading transaction, it costs us $10 per transaction, just our cost alone. But that is on the surface cost, means the licensing cost. But our fully loaded cost is another $10. It costs us $20 per transaction, which is very high. So if we can reduce that, and that becomes attribute to our profit.
So you reckon that any software sellers or providers need to be able to quantify the benefit for the banks or for the clients to make a case in terms of cost reduction, because there are too many people promising cost reduction, right? But there may not be clear evidence on that. So what would attract you more will be those not only able to use that value proposition, but be able to prove that cost can be reduced as a result based on your type of transaction, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
Okay,
yes.
So this is a tip for many of the members of the audience. Perhaps from the school point of view, the university point of view, if not just about learning the technology, but also about making sure the technology does serve its purpose and we are able to understand the economics of using technology. So there has to be the economics and the commercialization part of technology for all graduates or undergraduates learning IT related or technology related courses, yeah? Okay.
I think to expand on Charles' answer, I can share in terms of a different approach and setting a different lens to a telco in Singapore. And there are 3 telcos
Fantastic.
in Singapore.
Yeah, go ahead.
And to start off with, every one of us is a mobile user. We are either subscribed to Singtel, StarHub, or M1 as a user. Yeah. So in essence, for example, in M1, when we positioned the software, the outcome of what we wanted to help them was with three different things. We framed it under the framework called WAR, W-A-R, and it's easier to remember because W stands for wallet share, A stands for acquisition, and R stands for retention. So that is the WAR framework that I put on to bear, and I position it at M1 to say, and this is similar across all these 3 different telcos, where the key aim of the technology or the platform solution we're trying to share with you is obviously going to help you increase your wallet share and helps you in acquisition, and last but not least, to help you with your retention activities and promotions and programs. Now, how do I help you do that with wallet share? Yeah, let's start with the W. Now, in terms of wallet share, I'll be able to, the technology I'm putting to bear and trying to help you implement is obviously to identify which are the subscribers that will give you the most or the biggest wallet share in your organization. So those, in terms of being able to calculate the value, the ARPU, if you like, in the telco term, average revenue per user, how much each individual like you, for example, would be using your mobile phone, be it in voice or data. Yeah. So being able to identify those major contributors to build up your wallet share, that's 1. 2 is also helps to identify what are the characteristics of new users you like to target, right? That is really the acquisition part, which it falls under the A part of the framework called WAR, right? As you go in competition with your competitors, 2 major competitors, who are the type of users or subscribers of you want to attract? Now that is done through the different types of analytics that you can run through the data, the company's data, yeah? So if you're applying, techniques of analytics and artificial intelligence onto that data, that will drive and identify the different hindsights, insights, and foresights that will help you make those difficult business decisions, right? And as you know, in the telco business, retention is a key part of the business because the barriers of exit, entry and exit is very low. So what you want to do is to be able to identify people who are likely to leave the organization. Now, in the past, there were obviously different proponents within the organization who say, hey, everybody is signed up on a 2-year contract. Huh? So we know at the end of the 2-year contract, most people will likely want to change their provider. So before they even reach their end date of that, let me give you a key example, a practical example. Say, for example, today, and we know in M1, there are about 1 million subscribers. Now, of 1 million subscribers, you cannot be spending all your money on that 1 million. You need to be able to identify which are the key top 10% of the users that will likely leave. Now, your marketing budget could be finite. It's not something that there's a bottomless pit. You only got X number of dollars to be able to target this 1 million. Of the 1 million subscribers, the top 200,000 or the top 10%, which is top 100,000 subscribers, who are the most likely of this 100,000 that were likely to leave, right? So you focus your money, very focused, targeted campaigns and programs to recontract them, right? So you're actually maximizing your dollar spent in marketing to target these people. So by using the different technologies and platforms that we bring to bear in your organization, we're able to help you, fight this war against your competitors by improving your wallet share, increasing your acquisition rate, and reducing your churn rate. So that's where I wanted to bring to bear the frameworks that and the value propositions, rather than just purely selling, a software or a hardware piece into your organization. Yep, back to you, Nazri.
Thank you so much, Ben and Charles. We've come to the end of the session, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank our panelists and the audience for tuning in. And I would also like to take the opportunity to try to wrap up this webinar through the guidelines or worksheet that was presented earlier. So today, we've heard about the experience sharing by Charles and Ben about the merging or the convergence of hardware and software business. The past 20 years that these guys have been around, they've seen hardware becoming more software centric to be able to attract their customers even more. And the software guys are beginning to adopt more what you call data center elements of it while leasing the space from them to be able to reach out the customer for scalability purposes. And along with it comes the issue of security that has become greater of significant interest to many of these users. And we also talked about the war model that Ben has just shared. I thought it was very interesting about in the context of telco. So that war model can, which I typed also in the group chat, certainly can be applied to the customers, pricing, markets, product, services, and structure, right? The wallet share component, the acquisition component, and the retention component. These war principles can be applied to the 5 components that has been displayed on screen right now. And of course, prior to that, Charles has always been an advocator of a subscription-based economy, API economies, and a nimble and agile based or type of business model that is necessary to attract banks as well as corporates. What you call the buffet style, eat everything, to be offered to the solution buyers. And of course, the key takeaway that I get from here, I'm sure you guys have your own learning points, members of the audience, but we are all moving towards outcome-based solution. And Charles and Ben have certainly shared some examples of not selling product, not selling output, but selling outcomes. So it could be about, reducing costs, promoting, integration of community or racial harmony for certain agencies. It's about reducing costs for organizations with large fixed costs that they have to bear all the time. So, and these are merely 3 examples of the hundreds that any tech companies, whether in the hardware, software space, can provide. So, and of course, Ben has graciously shared in simple terms and yet very profound terms, what are the top 5 characteristics of that makes the tech companies from a human capital perspective very successful. Charles had about a dozen or so from the business standpoint. So all these information and slides can be viewed via our recorded session, which our site will make it available to all via email. But nonetheless, I hope that in the last 1 hour or so, we have learned quite a bit of stuff, from Charles and Ben. And stay tuned for episode 2 of our collaboration with webinar with AIFA. And episode 2, it's about delving deeper with specific areas, specific models, specific structure of the subscription economy. So episode 1 today, it's going through the general attributes, the general trend, the general models that are available out there. And episode 2 focuses specific on the subscription, or what you call, some say, we call the API economy or SaaS economy or cloud economy. Yeah. So and we are proud to introduce the rose amongst the thorns, Celine Ong, who is an expert in MarTech, marketing technology, in branding, right? And she's currently based in Shanghai, right, Charles?
Yes, yes. So
which is a huge market.
Digital marketing specialist based in Shanghai for the last 16 years.
Now that itself is a big market. That itself is a big creature altogether that we love to hear from Celine in the coming episode. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. We'll be in touch with you again via email and through the AI community. If you like to join, we continuously update our community of the latest development in technology and AI. Not just our technology, but others. So thank you very much, and God bless. Have a good week ahead.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Thanks, Charles and Ben.
Bye. Hello, good morning.